and happy Monday, where Aneta and I meet for a mindful start to our week, always tackling fun topics on self love and self care. And today we are talking about the law of sowing and reaping, which sounds like we're going to be talking about gardening, but we're talking about gardening on the inside and how we are able to water within so that we can grow and shine on the outside. So, with Aneta, I feel like we have both truly worked on this together for the past how many months? 4 months?
4 or 5 months.
Yeah, and it's been so exciting. I feel like Aneta is always the one that is reminding me the day you sow isn't the day you reap, because I wrote my self help book nearly a decade ago and self published it 4 years ago. And she's always there, like, now is the time. Now is the time that everything, comes to fruition. And so we thought it's a great topic to tackle because a lot of the time we can get quite impatient with ourselves and feel the need to always succeed and want everything to happen now. But only when you lean into the power of trust and patience and progression do you actually notice that you grow in ways unimaginable because you lean into the power of trust. So, how do you feel about that, Aneta? The leaning into this kind of law of, sowing and reaping. What does that mean to you?
I think that it took me a couple of years to figure out, but once I did, I remember I was listening to this one podcast and he was saying, do things with peace. When you find that peace within yourself, you no longer like force things to want to happen, then things will start to fall into place more smoothly. And I think that kind of goes hand in hand with planting seeds because a lot of times like we plant seeds and we want them to come up immediately. But what we have to realize is that if we plant a daisy plant, I'm not a big gardener, but I know how this works. If you plant a daisy plant, you put the seed in the dirt and you water it and you give it the sunshine. And if you don't see anything for a couple of weeks, you don't go dig up the seed and be like, hey, are you ready yet? You just continue watering it and nurturing it. And I think we have to give ourselves that same patience that we would with that plant, you know?
Yeah, you just saying that reminds me of, like, I am a plant person and I love flowers. However, when I was gifted a plant from one of my best friends when I just moved to Berlin, I found it such a beautiful plant and I watered it every day. I was putting it in the sun. I was like, what's happening? Why is she not growing? And then she died. And I was like, and then my friend was like, you overwatered her. You just drowned her in your love. And I was like, wow, like it really taught me like the power of like also using that as a metaphor to ourselves. Like you can also overwater yourself or underwater yourself. Like it's all about finding the balance. And knowing like also each plant that I have has different needs, like we do. We're all individual, and maybe you need, I don't know, more self care in your structural daily life than maybe I do. And maybe that looks different to you, like we spoke about last week. What does that look like for you? Like for me, maybe right now in my era of my life is hibernating and reflecting and introspection and reading and writing. Whereas maybe you're still in your phase of like, socializing in Mexico with all these great new friends we have and doing new things. And it's so funny how we all go through like these different stages, and it's actually finding about what feels good for you right there and then. And that can also evolve. Like, I find that so interesting in itself.
I really like what you said about how you overwatered your plant because that, I like, yes, like it's like a funny thing to look back on, like, haha, I overwatered my plant. But taking that into human experience, how many times do we do that? Whether it's with even if it's with something good, you can overdo it. Like you can add an excessive amount of something. For example, like if like I love to go on walks, but like if I'm constantly going on like super long walks every single day instead of prioritizing other things, then that's kind of like overwatering in that area. And I think a lot of times we need to learn how to find that balance within so we don't overwater or underwater ourselves as well.
Yeah, because it's like you say, I'm thinking like with the gym, for example, when people get so addicted, it's like every day and it becomes an addiction to kind of look after yourself, which in itself is beautiful. But like you're saying, you wear yourself out too, and it's all about actually finding that balance between the two, like not doing too much of one thing, but doing like a little bit of a few things that make yourself feel good and knowing at some point using your intuition, oh, this is really the balance that brings me the most joy in my life. And I've always been able to notice that with flowers. I even wrote a poem in my book actually about treating yourself like a flower. Like you tend to your flower like you tend to yourself every day, like speaking kind words is even like backed up by research allows flowers to grow better. Like it's amazing. And it's like us, we have to treat ourselves with kindness. We have to talk to ourselves like we love ourselves. And if you're your worst enemy in your mind, then that's going to reflect in your life. Whereas if you're your best cheerleader, then you're only going to be able to work to the best of your ability. So I guess there's so many areas in how you can reap to reap the benefit in yourself. Um, but I would say the biggest one for me recently has been rest and working. Like it is a radical act of self-love being able to rest guilt-free, and only recently have I noticed oh, it is just so refreshing to, like, for example, have a 3-day digital detox, or to just like read and not do anything with no voice in your head like, oh, you still have this to do, like actually being able to, yeah, just distinguish, yeah, that you are able to rest, and there is time for you to grow and to work, but there's also time for you to rest. And when the two come together, it's like yin and yang, everything is about balance. That I'm able to work to my best ability now. Like, I'm not like, yeah, I need to do this, I need to do this. Like, the moment I let go of need, Aneta, I was freed. Like, there was no need anymore. It was just like, I am, I can, I will, I do, not I need and I should. There was just way more trust in, yeah, planting my seeds and watering them as I go.
Yeah, and I think that like a lot of times, like us as humans, this is including myself once upon a time, like it's like you feel like you're constantly sowing the seed. You're sowing the good seed. You're helping this person. You're taking care of yourself. You're going to the gym. You're doing good in your career. But like, when are they going to come up? And I think a lot of times, like when we are constantly doing the work and then seeing the people around us achieve their goals, it can kind of make us doubt it. But at the end of the day, we have to keep in mind, like, this is something that keeps me motivated, is that the bigger the struggle, the greater the victory. And that always sticks with me because everybody has different dreams, everybody has different sides of dreams and goals. I think that's like one of the keys to not compare yourself to others when you are sowing your seeds or watching your friends get what they want, because seed time and harvest time is a real thing, but everybody's sides of dreams is different. So you cannot compare your dreams to somebody else's. And that's just kind of like what keeps me focused and stayed in my lane is, yeah, I'm happy for my friends or I'm happy for those family members who achieve those dreams, but I'm going to be happy for them to keep focusing on mine because they're completely different. And it's just also goes in hand with not comparing yourself so much to others. Because for me personally, like I have a faith relationship with God, and it's like when you ask God for a rose, sometimes He tells you, I'll give you more, but He wants to give you the garden. And the garden takes longer to grow and build than just a rose. And I think that's where we can learn a lot of things. Is always
Yeah,
for the garden.
I agree. I love that about the garden and the roses. However, I have to take a step back to when you were saying about like focusing on your lane. I think it's so powerful because sometimes when you get distracted by other lanes, like also here on Substack, if you've recently joined like Aneta and I, we've only been here for a few months, we could maybe go down a lane and go to someone that's already been here a while. And of course, you can learn from them. It's not that I don't want to dismiss their strategies and their knowledge. However, sometimes when you go into that lane, you're like, oh, this is the rush lane. I'm going to get there quicker because they know what they're doing and I'm going to get the followers like them. I'm going to get the strategies. But that is actually what made writing toxic for me when I went down the medium lane. So I was on medium for a while and I followed all of these people, Anetta, that were like, I have this strategy that will get you this much money and this many followers. And it motivated me to a certain extent. But then it also kind of like just took writing away from me as like my passion because I was like, hey, I'm focusing too much on an outcome rather than on my passion of writing to help people find peace. And so that's why I took a step back from writing online for 3.5 years and only returned last year when you and I found out about Substack. And I was like, I think this seems like a good platform. And I'm so glad we landed here because I don't see that toxic energy, or maybe that's just not in alignment with me and my energy right now, where it's like, hey, come into my lane and I'll give you that quick route that you can get here. Well, no, because I noticed that here everyone's in their own lane and just helping each other on their lanes. That is the beautiful thing. Like you were saying, being able to be happy for your friends, even online, and noticing, oh, they're doing so well, and not thinking like, oh, they've been here like shorter than I have and they have more subscribers than me. Like, don't go into that lane of, reframing yourself to compare, but frame yourself to like actually be happy for them and learn from them, but also stay in your lane, like trust in your lane. Like, how do you trust in your lane, Anetta? Like, how do you stay focused on seeing everyone else around you flourish or even plant the seeds, because we all have different timings. But how are you able to just be like, yeah, this is my lane and I'm staying on it?
I had to work on this a lot. I
I
used
think
to
everyone does.
Yeah, I had a really bad self-image once upon a time, so I was always comparing myself to everybody, and I was hiding behind certain people that were in close to me in my life at the time. So like whoever they presented to be, I would hide behind them. And it wasn't until I really started to create a voice for myself and start to fall in love with myself. So that goes back hand in hand with last week's topic of the self-love and falling in love with yourself again.
Yeah.
And that, like, it's given me the opportunity to just genuinely be happy for others. Something that I was actually learning this weekend. Like, I had to, like, tell myself over and over until it processed in my head, but be kind without expectation. Give without having expectations that that person owes you something. And I think that also motivates me because I love to give, like whether it's like I love to give to people to make them feel good, but at the same time, I'm learning to give without having that thought of expectation. And I think that also helps me stay in my lane and helps me keep me motivated because it's like everybody is on their own different journey and it gives you a lot more grace for yourself for where you once were and to where you are now. And it's just like learning to give without expectation and just knowing that everybody has different goals and dreams and different sizes of their goals and dreams. You and I may have similar goals, but the sizes could be different, or some parts of it may be similar, but at the end of the day, we both are still two different people and we have different visions. So we can't compare our seeds to other people's seeds.
Yeah. I really love that how you say when you're actually able to fall in love with yourself and work on your self image, work on not comparing, but becoming who you are because you are individual. You have a power like no other. We all bring something different to Substack. We all bring something different to this world. We all have a light. We all have this love, but it comes out in different auras. And I think that is really also what's helped me, knowing that no one is me. That is my power. That is your power. And, not in an egoistic way, like no one's me, everyone wants to be me, but rather actually, no, like in a selfless way, like you were just saying, like, I'm giving with no expectations because I love myself and I want others to love themselves like I do because you deserve to be joyful like I am. Like when you really get to that level of knowing how to treat yourself with grace and with care and with kindness, you only want that for others because we're all deserving of it. And yeah, I think that's a really good way to kind of bring back yourself on your lane, wanting to help other people on their lanes, but there's no competition. Like, why would there be? Because I think when you get into that state of mind of competition, it takes you away from your authenticity.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's just be your authentic self. And it's
We
sweet
have a
that,
question.
yeah,
Thank you,
Blossom said,
Blossom.
how do people show love to themselves?
Oh,
I'd
there's a
say
variety of ways.
for me personally, it started with being comfortable with who I am. Because it's so easy for us to judge ourselves based on what the person next to us looks like, or what that celebrity looks like, or what they're doing. But for me personally, it was getting comfortable with who I am and falling in love with the person that I am. That was personally for me. What about you, Grace?
I would say there's a lot of layers to it. I definitely agree with you. However, I think there are just so many layers in loving yourself that for each person it looks different. If I were to say also accepting yourself starts with showing yourself love, being kind only then stems from the fact that you're able to accept yourself fully. And that means also accepting the parts of yourself that you may not really have liked in the past versions of yourself that you maybe aren't comfortable with anymore and you've outgrown. But actually, I think showing yourself love is an array of affairs and it begins with acceptance, forgiveness, um, showing up as who you are, not copying others. Um, I think it is a very like multitude of layers that you can't really cover in a few minutes. But Aneta has a journal that allows you to find out how to love yourself and show yourself love. And I also have a self help book that is a guide for you to really connect with so many layers of this. So, for example, connection to others, nature reminds us how to love ourselves. Like Aneta and I have just been saying, treat yourself like a flower, for example. Um, there's just so many layers to it. It's about finding what feels good for you, essentially, and doing more of that. Creativity, I would say, is a big one, being able to connect to your inner child and create without expectation, like drawing for me again, like watercolor and writing. Yeah, like there are just so many things that I could also just like keep going on. But yeah, if you follow Aneta and I, we're always here to help you guys show yourselves love because for us, what means like what it is for us to show ourselves love may be different for you, but in essence, we are all human beings, so we help each other in ways that feel good for each other. So, yeah, you can definitely learn from one another on that. But it's not about comparing, but rather, I will always remember this, Aneta, I just have to say this. The dad of my best friend when we were like younger, when I was like 16, it's always stuck with me. He was like, he always finds something that he loves about someone, like just something.
Does
And I was like, wow, that's actually really cool. And I remember I just like adapted it like straight away because I just love that because I love people. I love getting to know new people, new cultures. And the moment I was able to see what I love in someone, even a stranger, I was able to be like, oh, that would look good on me too. For example, the way that someone, I don't know, like holds themselves, like a good position. I really find that like attractive and confident. And I'm like, okay, I will. So it's like not comparing in that sense, but adapting what you find attractive in others in yourself, if that makes sense.
you can find qualities in other people and apply them to yourself, but don't be too head on being exactly like that person.
Exactly. It's like attributes and qualities. Yes, that is it.
That's such a beautiful way to put it together.
I know. And I had to share that because it's always stuck with me and it's always been something that I do then. Like I fall in love with people all the time. Like the way that someone laughs crazy or I don't know, like twitches their nose. Like there's so many little things that you can like notice in people and then you notice it in yourself that you all have like your little ticks, and it's embracing that, like not hating it, but embracing it for what it is. So yeah. Thank you for that question though. Also a lovely name, Blossom, for this topic. Yeah. So Anata, do you wanna announce our exciting news?
Yes, so before we wrap things up today, Grace and I do have some exciting news. So at the end of April, April 24, 25, and 26, or 25, 26, 27, we are going to be hosting a live summit for 3 days. So we're stay in touch for the details, but we will be sending out more details in the next coming weeks. But yes, we are having our own Nourished Inside Out Live Summit.
Because we love doing this. Like Aneta is a podcast host, and I have just made my own community online, bringing people together on their healing journeys. And I feel we just both kind of love getting to know people and what their wisdom may bring to us. And we are both very dedicated on nourishing ourselves inside out, which is the name of Aneta's podcast, and I love it. And so we were thinking of doing a summit on how to truly like love yourself, like you were just asking us, Blossom, because there are so many ways, and it's time that we all embrace this. Like, it's time to love yourself fully and who you are, and that way we combat all the negative energy on the outside and start prioritizing our peace, which is the best gift you can give yourself. So I'm very excited for that.
So am I. Nobody's gonna love you the way that you love yourself, and that's true because you spend the most time with yourself. So let's love
Yeah.
our learn how to share it with others and spread the kindness and positivity with each other. So it'll be
Yeah.
really we hope to see you guys there, and we will be sending more details out throughout the next couple of weeks.
Yay! So, on that note, it was lovely talking. Thank you for joining us. We come live every Monday at the same time for half an hour, always about different topics that may be arising in our lives, but also inviting you guys to give us any topics that you may be struggling with, and we can dive deep together because that's why we're here. We're here to grow and glow together. So, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.